Okay. So let me start with a question that was submitted yesterday. So the question is, how to move on when you've had an amazing connection or experience with someone and they've ended things. Let me know if you guys have experienced this. I have experienced this at some point. So I'm very, very glad that this question is coming up. So I'm very grateful for the person and the experience, but it's tough. They didn't end it for lack of feelings or wanting to be in the relationship, but have personal wounds or blocks that they need to heal before being ready to be with someone. Okay. My personal wound instantly jumps too, like it's a load of crap. If the feelings were really there, they wouldn't walk away. But mostly I'm empathetic. I'm just trying to stay busy to avoid reaching out to them. Yeah, so this is a really great question. So, Roxine, I'm gonna just, I don't know the exact details of this person's wounds or what's going on. So I'm gonna make some assumptions, and if I'm incorrect, please correct me and clarify here. But what I think might be happening is that this person might be someone who is not totally emotionally available. And I also just want to say that this is a really, really tough situation. This is a tough situation to move forward from. When we were so invested, when we thought that this was like an awesome relationship and an awesome connection, it just doesn't seem fair and it kind of doesn't make sense. And I think that's what I'm picking up here from your question. I see, hi Suzanne, watching from Tennessee, thank you. Oh, and Jesselyn, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. Thanks for watching. So yeah, so it sounds like this person is unavailable in some way. And so I want to talk about something in general. And again, if to the person that asked this question, if this isn't relating to your situation, let me know. But I want to answer this for everyone here. So when we're with someone who has some wounds, who has some issues, who has some blocks, and they're holding themselves back completely from us, from a relationship, what we can do is we can then project a lot of what we want this person to be. And we can feel like there's this amazing connection. And all of this is happening subconsciously, but it happens all the time. And this is something that I experience too. And if you guys can relate to this, please let me know in the comments. So we're with someone who's got stuff going on. They're not totally available. And so when they aren't able to be fully present with us, when they can't show us completely who they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, when they're not able to totally be themselves and show up 100% in the relationship, we, again, project and we kind of fill in the gaps because this person has literally left gaps for us to subconsciously fill in. And we can paint this picture of this amazing partner who isn't actually there. This isn't actually going on, but it's like a fantasy image. And we can feel so drawn to this person because they do leave those gaps for us. Let me know if this is making sense to you guys. This was something that I realized was going on in my relationships. It took me a long time of healing to get to this point. But I saw that when someone was not totally available to me, I did fill in those gaps. And I was like, this is an amazing person. They're so great. But they really weren't. So Chelsea's saying, yeah, so you can relate too. Okay. And so, you know, when this happens, it can feel like we've met like the perfect match. It can feel like, oh my gosh, this person is amazing. And we idealize them. We put them up on a pedestal. But in reality, a lot of this is fantasy. Again, it's projection. And so, you know, I don't know, again, to the person that's asking this question, if this is what's going on with this guy. Okay, so he was amazing in the first 3.5 weeks, would openly communicate how much he feels for me, heartfelt and so romantic. Okay, so I know he is capable. So how could it just end so quickly? Was it a lie? I am confused. Yeah, okay, Roxine. So this does sound like someone who is unavailable, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I feel you on this. It's super confusing. He struggles with PTSD and abandonment issues from his past. Yeah, so what this sounds like is someone who is avoidant. And if you're familiar with attachment theory, you understand this. But what avoidant means is someone who has a lot of what you said, abandonment issues. They don't want to get too close to you. They'll get close to you in the beginning. That's the confusing part. They'll show up in the beginning, but once it starts to get real, once it starts to get serious and more intimate, they freak out and they leave. They say they can't do it, they're not ready, they need to heal some things, and they're not lying to you. That's the truth. That is the truth. They have so many abandonment issues that they just can't do the relationship. So I don't think that he was lying to you. I don't know how self-aware he is of his own issues. It sounds like he does have some self-awareness that, yeah, you know what, clearly I gotta fix some things here. Because for someone like this, real intimacy is terrifying. And I can tell you this, guys, because I have gone through periods in my life, like when I was much, much younger, I went through a period where I myself was actually very avoidant. I switched over the years from avoidant to anxious, like super anxious. But in the beginning, I was avoidant. And I can tell you that this is how it was for me. I really liked somebody in the beginning, and I was like, all right, yeah, let's do this. Let's dive into it here. And then, literally like out of the blue, I would get this horrible, like, pit of my stomach fear about just this person and getting into a relationship and love and intimacy, and I would freak out and just end it. I would be done. This is when I was like a very early teen, and I really had no awareness of what was going on. There was no talk about attachment theory at that point, or I wasn't reading about it. So I had no idea what was going on with me. I was like, something's not normal here, but I didn't know what to do about it. And so I think that this might be what's going on with this guy. Yeah, Roxine says, yes, that's exactly what happened. He said he self-sabotages and pushes away before someone can hurt him. Yes. So, you know, the temptation is for when you're going through something like this to hold out for this person, to think that, you know what, he was so amazing. If he can just heal, if he can just get his stuff together, we'd have this amazing relationship, right? Let me know if you guys have experienced this too. If you've had these thoughts of like, oh, I just want it to work with this person because it would be so great. But what I would advise here is to not wait for this person. Because this type of healing that he needs to do, don't know if he's actually going to do it, but what he needs to do is intensive, and it's going to take a while. This is not something that you could just work on for a couple weeks and he's going to be totally 100% ready. Yeah, Roxine is saying, yes, this is where I am now. Do you mean, you know, wondering if you should hold out hope for him? I think that's what you're referring to here. But yeah, so the healing that is involved here, it's going to take a lot. It took a while. It took like years. Not that I was doing some active healing at that point, but it took me years to get to the point where I could be okay enough to be in a healthy relationship. Okay, Roxanne says yes. And I don't know if I would even call my relationships healthy back then, but it took me years to get to the point where I could be open enough to sustain a relationship. So, Roxine, I do not recommend waiting for this guy. I know how tempting it can be, but I can promise you that there are going to be other guys out there who will be just as great as him, but will be emotionally available. They won't have all these issues. They will be fully present with you, and everything will be awesome. You don't have to wait around for this guy. And I really don't recommend it, because let's say he hypothetically got into therapy tomorrow and started this journey. It's not going to resolve itself within weeks or months. This is a journey he's going to have to go on for a little while. And, you know, waiting around for someone to do their healing, I mean, we actually don't have all the details here. We don't know everything that was going on in his head. Let's see. Roxine is saying he's been working with a therapist since December, and is doing a lot of self-development right now, so he is self-aware. Okay, I just don't understand, if he knew this issue, then why would he get into something with me? And yeah, so that's what I was going to say here. We don't know everything that's going on in his head. He might have decided that this wasn't the right relationship for him. That's the reality here. He could have somewhat been lying to you and just used that as an excuse of maybe he wasn't thinking that you were the right person for him. We don't know. We really don't know here. So either way, I would not recommend waiting for this person, because what I was going to say is, if you do that, it can really, really erode at your sense of self-worth, your self-esteem, because you could be having these great connections with someone else who's really into you and who's like totally ready to do this with you right now. So as tempting as it is, I would not recommend waiting around for someone like this. So please let me know if this resonates with you guys, if this is making sense, and if you have experienced something like this yourself in your relationships. Okay, so I hope that this is helpful, Roxine. So you guys, bring your questions. Let me see what else that I can help you with today. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so Roxine is saying, yeah, this is what I think is best. You're welcome. And so to answer, to continue on with this question here, the other thing that is really, really helpful for moving forward in letting go of someone like this is to do the emotional healing work. So what makes us attached to someone is basically suppressed emotion. It's unresolved emotional stuff. That's like the glue of these relationships. So if you want to move forward from this person and release that connection, and even if you guys were only dating for a couple weeks, there could still be a significant emotional connection. So what I would recommend doing to help move that process forward is to do some emotional healing work. Whatever modality you can find that helps you to bring up the baggage, so to speak, I like that word, your emotional baggage, to bring up the baggage and release it is going to help you to disconnect from this person much more quickly. One of the tools that I use for this is energy healing. Super, super powerful. If you watch the video that we did, the interview that I did with Cassie last week, we talk about how that helped her so much with unwinding a trauma bond from her ex. It's super, super powerful. So that's one of the methods that I use. And if anyone is interested in hearing more about that, type in the comments energy healing or just message me and I can reach out to you. But yeah, any method that will address the emotional stuff will help you to move on from someone that you don't want to be connected to anymore. So I hope that this is helpful. Okay. So you're welcome. Chelsea said very helpful. Thank you. Okay, awesome. Chelsea's asking, do you have any tips for how to stop contact? So I think that what you're saying here is stopping contact with someone who you are ending a relationship with and you don't want to be in contact with anymore. Chelsea, just let me know if I'm on it here. But yeah, so let me take a sip of water here so I don't lose my voice. So what I teach here is if you're going on a healing journey, you don't want to suppress emotions. You want to feel them, you want to allow them to come up, because this is what heals and this is what breaks these patterns of getting into bad relationships. However, when you are trying to go no contact with someone who you kind of have this addictive bond with, then I do recommend distracting yourself as much as possible. So in this particular situation is the only time that I would really tell you, okay, like just do what you got to do to avoid talking to this person, to break this addiction. And then you can go into, sitting with yourself, allowing yourself to feel the emotions. But what is most important here in breaking the cycle of bad relationships is first detaching. You got to break the they're almost like, they're like grooves in your brain. They're pathways where your brain is so used to getting that dopamine hit from this person that you need to cut that off. You need to break that cycle and redirect that dopamine to a different person or a different activity. So I'm actually going to talk about this coming up pretty soon. I'm going to go into a lot more detail with this, so stay tuned for how to do that. But yeah, you want to, instead of, so like for example, if you're used to talking to this person at night, you know, right before you go to bed, that's the routine, and it gives you that little like boost, that little dopamine hit. What you want to do is find something else that will give you that hit. Now, it might not be as strong as the hit that you get with this person because, you know, you're used to it. A lot of attachment has built up. Excuse me. But you want to redirect it. So instead of reaching out to this person, maybe you reach out to a friend. You reach out to a family member some days. You switch it up. You talk to different people on different days to give you that hit. Or maybe if, you know, you're used to hanging out with this person every Saturday, or you know, whatever the case is, you pick a different activity that also makes you feel good. Now, this isn't going to be like a cure-all. It's still going to be really, really hard to stop contact with someone. And what you need to know is that it's normal to go through this withdrawal process, because it really is like an addiction. Attachment is an addiction to someone. And we can have healthy addictions, so to speak, and unhealthy addictions. So just know that there is going to be some amount of withdrawal or pain or possibly anxiety or fear that you're going to feel when you stop contacting this person. And your only job here is to just like hold on and ride it. All of this stuff will not kill you. I promise you guys, I have been through so much of this pain and fear. If I can survive it, you can easily. So just know that none of this is going to kill you. It is hard, but you can get through it. And you're going to be so much better off on the other side. I can tell you from experience, I had to withdraw from really, really addictive relationships, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But now on the other side, it's so much better because I'm now with a partner who's awesome and who I feel loved by, and literally my partner tells me all the time like how lucky he feels, and I feel that way too. So it's 100% worth going through this process. But yeah, Chelsea, I hope that this is helpful, and I'm gonna go into more detail in a couple weeks here. So Roxine is asking, what is it in me that keeps attracting projects or emotionally unavailable men? That is the $1 million question here, right? This is what this group is all about. This is why I created this group. So I'm just going to go into this quickly, Roxine, but when I'm done here, I'm going to also leave a couple links for you of previous lives I've done where I've gone into this very deeply. You can also, for any of you guys, you can also go to the guides section. I have tons of these lives that I've done previously. I've saved some of my favorite ones, so you can go back and check out all the information here. Okay, so what is it that keeps us creating these relationships? So very often it's subconscious stuff. There could be a couple different things going on, but quite often it's subconscious beliefs of like feeling not good enough, feeling unworthy of someone who is healthy and can show up and love you. Oftentimes there's a fear, like I talked about with my own experience, there's a fear of intimacy because of unresolved trauma. So that could be going on. And also, if we've had relationships, especially early childhood relationships with caregivers who were unavailable, who were abusive, or who were projects where you needed to take care of them, then we're very often drawn to people that are just like what we experienced in the past because it's familiar. Our brains are wired to go towards what's familiar because it's a very primitive survival instinct. It's basically the premise of like, well, this hasn't killed us, this hasn't killed me, so it's probably safe, and therefore it's okay for me to proceed. But that's, you know, very often it's not the case. I mean, these are not emotionally or even physically at times safe relationships. So again, Roxine, this is a very, very like cursory dive into this topic, but yeah, I will leave some links for you to check this out further. But this is very often what is happening, and this is the work that I do. I help women to shift these patterns, to work through some of this unprocessed stuff, and to rewire some of these beliefs that they have about themselves, about love, about relationships, about other people, so that they can create very, very different relationships. It's basically everything that I did myself, because I had this pattern of getting into emotionally unavailable relationships, and at times even abusive relationships. So I had to really look at myself and say, okay, what's going on here? I'm creating these relationships. So I looked and saw, yeah, I was carrying around a lot of stuff, a lot of emotional baggage that I had to release, a lot of beliefs I had about myself, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve love. And so once I shifted all that, I was then able to let love in and create a healthy relationship. But yeah, that's quite often what's going on. Okay. So moving along here. Oh, by the way, guys, as I'm going along here too, please let me know if this is resonating and if this is making sense. Because if it's not, I want to make sure that I'm clarifying things for you. Okay, so Phoenix is saying, I want to help heal his pain, but I'm not able to as I'm still working on me. Yes, yes. Plus discovering it's not my job to heal others is refreshing. Yes. So Phoenix, so hey, you can heal others. It's a great thing, but make sure you get paid for that. So here, I can relate to this because this was me too. Like, I considered myself an empath and I wanted to be helpful. Like, I truly enjoyed being helpful and providing that healing space for others. It's a strength of mine, and it's why I do what I do. It's you know, I can be very helpful to many people. But in relationships, it's not the dynamic that you want. So a good example of this is, you know, if you were undergoing a therapeutic relationship, like if you were entering therapy, they never recommend that your therapist be your partner. It's you don't do it. And there's a reason for that. It's because the dynamic doesn't work. You're not supposed to be the person that helps heal your partner. Okay? So it doesn't mean that your presence is not helpful. Like, my partner, he's not healing me, so to speak, but he's a great presence to have as I do my own healing. He provides this safe space for me, and I do the same thing for him. But I'm not healing him by any means. It's not my job, and it doesn't work anyway. Because you're too close to this situation. You know, very often when we go into therapy, we need to work through the issues that come up in a romantic relationship, and they often can't be resolved just within the relationship or just with the other person. It doesn't work that way. So I'm so glad that you're understanding that it isn't your job to heal anyone. And, you know, the reality here is also that someone has to really want to heal in order to heal. I can't tell you how long I stayed in relationships with people who I was like, you know, my presence is gonna be just so great for them. It's gonna help them heal. No, it wasn't. They just took advantage of me because they didn't want to heal. They weren't interested in doing that. This was the narcissistic relationship I was in. I could see, because I was empathic, I could see that this person had a ton of trauma. They had so much going on. I was like, this person needs a lot of help. I'm going to be the help. This is before I knew about narcissism or anything like that. But didn't work because this person was not interested whatsoever in healing. Even though they talked a good game, they talked about healing. When it came down to it, brass tacks, they didn't want to. So yes, it's so freeing and it's so healing to release that burden. And if you're still interested in healing, just like I said, make sure you're getting paid for that. Go, you know, like start a business. You can do something similar to what I do. You can go back to school and learn how to help people in a more professional way. Get paid for it. You know, that's where you can channel it. So I hope this is helpful, Phoenix. Okay. So yeah, Chelsea's saying yes. Okay, awesome. Oh, Cassie, thank you. Yes, can't wait for my healthy guy. It's coming. It's coming. I am holding the vision for you and for all of you. Again, this is why I do this live show every week. It's why I have this group. I'm holding the vision of a healthy relationship because I know that it is possible for all of you. None of you have to settle for meh, or like it's good enough, or like it's okay. No, there's a healthy relationship waiting out there for you. So Phoenix is asking, how do you release the baggage? So yeah, so this is something that I do for my clients, but really any modality that brings up the suppressed emotion. For some people, therapy is helpful for this. For me, it personally was not. I mean, therapy has its place. It was helpful to me for other things, but simply talking about it wasn't enough for me to bring up the emotional baggage. So my favorite method is energy healing. I know some people use things like psychedelics. I would never just go out there and recommend that you do that. But I know there's some interesting research being done on the use of those substances for releasing trauma and emotional baggage. But there's like some people use I forget what it's called, but they do body work, and sometimes like really intense body work that's done very well can bring up suppressed emotional energies. So I mean, you can do your research and see what is out there for you. But like I personally am a fan of energy healing. I think it's a very, very direct and immediate way to bring up this stuff and release it. Okay, guys, let's see. Any more questions here? I see Suzanne's question. Okay, so I went through a trauma bond with a covert narcissist. Yeah, those are tough. I went no contact, set boundaries, and broke this bond almost a year ago. Awesome, yay! Okay, so now there are men who pursue me, but I don't feel interested in them past the first date or meeting them, even if they are possibly good men. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I continue to talk to certain ones because I don't want to seem mean or hurt their feelings. After a little while, I get drained by them and just withdraw from others. Yeah, so Suzanne, I'm so glad you brought this up because this is a very, very common experience. So if you've been in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic, even if they're covertly narcissistic, the experience of that is very, very different from a healthy relationship. As difficult as these relationships can be, and as painful and as frustrating as they can be, they're also sometimes pretty exciting. And I hate to say that, but that's the reality. They're very stimulating. There's the emotional highs, there's the ups and downs, and it can be almost addictive, these relationships, because of those dynamics. So it's like there's always drama going on. It always feels like something is happening. And so when you come out of these relationships and you start to date quote unquote normal, healthy people, it can seem like, well, where's all the chemistry? Where's all the excitement? Where's all the drama? And you can think that you're just not into a lot of these people. So Suzanne, what also could be going on is there still could be, like, I don't know how much healing you've done here. I don't know how much you've actually grieved this relationship. But sometimes if there is a lot of suppressed emotion going on, you can feel kind of like numb. You cannot have a lot of feelings for people. And it's why there's like when I do the healing work that I do, there's a specific type of block that comes up, and it's called a heart wall. And if we've been through painful relationships or abusive relationships, the emotions get suppressed and they form this like energetic wall around your heart, which makes it difficult to feel these feelings, to feel love for people, to feel it back from people, to receive love. So there could be something like this going on too. Suzanne, I'd be curious to hear what kind of healing that you've gone through here. And if you feel like you have really grieved, and when I'm talking about grieving, I'm talking about letting the emotions come up and releasing them. Crying is a big part of the grieving process. Have you guys ever had the experience where you have cried, like a really good cry, and then you felt, like so much better afterwards? You feel lighter. You feel like you've let go of something. That's what I'm talking about with grieving. That's the experience of releasing suppressed emotion. It literally feels like that. And when you go through that process, you release the connection to your ex, and you will feel more open to love. You will feel more like you can let these guys in. But yeah, the process of dating after a toxic relationship, it can initially feel like everyone is kind of boring. And that is a sign that you might still need to do a little bit more emotional healing work, a little bit more work to shift the patterns. But it's very common, and a lot of the women that I've worked with have described that, like first coming out of a bad relationship, healthy guys seem boring. And it's because it's actually a good thing. It's because they're not stimulating you in that same way, in the way that isn't good. It's in the way that isn't healthy. Really what they're stimulating, these toxic relationships, is they're stimulating your attachment trauma. So what that means is, like, if you, for example, are a person who's more anxiously attached, and so you have patterns of abandonment and feeling not good enough, when someone comes in that mirrors that, it's this really crazy thing, but it can feel like this very weird combination of like I found the perfect match. It can feel really good at times, but it can also feel really painful, and it can bring up a lot of anxiety. And so that's what we're used to feeling in these toxic relationships. So then when you transition to a safe relationship, yeah, it can feel boring, and you're like, maybe I'm just not into these people. So what I would say for anyone that's watching, and also for Suzanne too, the metric that you can go by, if you can't really go by feelings and chemistry, because we really don't want to do that, and I've talked about that in other videos, coming out of a toxic relationship, you don't want to go by chemistry. You don't want to look for that as the main criteria for being with someone. But what you can ask yourself is, do I want to see this person again? Like, don't get into like what they would think, or don't listen to your guilt, but do you authentically find it interesting to learn more about this person? Like, do you want to see him again? That's all you really need to know. If you don't find them interesting and the answer is no, all right, then you may need to let them go. But if the answer is yes, if you want to see them again, then keep going. So yeah, so Suzanne's saying, I've grieved a lot and released those emotions. What I feel is nothing and kind of blah with the others. Okay, so actually, Suzanne, that's probably a sign that this is a pretty good relationship. Or at least that this person is safe for you. They're safe, they're healthy, they're making you feel secure. So, I wouldn't ever tell anyone to settle for someone who they don't feel like they have a good time with, or who they don't feel like they have a good connection in the way of like good conversation and common interest. But it's not gonna feel like it used to feel with those people who were unhealthy. It really isn't. You may not feel much. In the beginning, if, let's say hypothetically, you were to give these guys a chance, you could develop feelings, and very deep ones in fact, months down the road. What I tell people is you really do want to look for more of a slow burn coming out of a toxic relationship. So, so Suzanne, really the question to ask yourself is, okay, do I want to see this person again? And then, give it time. Give it time for those feelings to develop. If we're used to having immediate chemistry or immediate feelings with someone, again, it can be very different to date coming out of a toxic relationship. What happened to me, the way dating went for me, is when I felt that immediate chemistry or that immediate excitement, I actually looked at that as a red flag for myself, because I looked at my history. I was like, okay, where has this chemistry and excitement led me to? And it was always into a bad relationship. So I tell people, and what I had to do for myself is to go for someone who just had what I was looking for on paper. They checked the boxes, and then, okay, do we have a certain amount of connection in person? Do we have a good, like, are the conversations good? Do I enjoy myself in their company? Am I happy in their company? And if the answer was yes, then it was okay. This is a good person. So Suzanne, I hope this answers your question, and I hope that it gives you some validation for your experience, because yeah, this is kind of what happens. People do initially feel kind of like and that's when the slow burn is really what we're looking for here. But to also address, like I think you said here, like you just don't want to seem mean or hurt their feelings. That's not a good enough reason to go on another date with someone. So if you're just worried about hurting their feelings, no, it's actually more helpful for you to stop seeing them if you're really not into them. Because it does no one any good to drag something on that you're really not that interested in. You're going to hurt them more down the road because they're going to get attached to you. And so if you're really not that into it, then it's perfectly okay to not see them again. Because I want to remind all of you here, this is what dating is for. Dating is to get to know each other and see if you're a good fit. It's not like we can tend to think like, oh, if I'm going out with someone, this means I'm 100% committed to them, like we're getting married. No, you're not getting married till you're getting married. Let dating be this period where you're figuring it out. If you are a good match, it doesn't have to be this immediate thing. You don't have to know right away. I certainly didn't know right away when I started dating my partner. It took a while. I was taking my time, and we both went into dating like that. We were exclusive after a short time, but in that exclusivity, we took it as like, all right, this is a trial. Let's see what develops here. Let's see if this works. So, okay, hope this was helpful. Suzanne, let me know. Okay, Phoenix is saying, I get that, perfect. So, hi Maya, she's saying, but feeling like can also be that you met the right guy, but they need to heal too in order to drop the past. Yes. So, yeah, that like, I know you guys probably know what I'm talking about here, that feeling of like, like I've met the perfect match. Oh, I think actually, Maya, I think that's not what you're talking about. I think that, well, I'm not sure here. Maya, you'll have to clarify. But what I first thought you were talking about here is that feeling like when you first meet someone and they feel like a perfect fit and it's like, oh yeah, this is the one. If you've had a traumatic past or if you've had a lot of bad relationships in the past, that's a warning sign too. That's actually a red flag. Because what it usually means is you've met what some people call your wound mate, like someone who perfectly matches your wounds, and it feels like you guys fit really great and it's perfect, but it's often like a toxic match. It's an unhealthy match. Okay, so Danielle is asking how to rewire your brain from a lifetime of negativity. Great question. So Danielle, I'll tell you, like, I'll just explain my journey here. So I tried to do this just consciously for a long time. Like I went to therapy. I did a ton of journaling. I tried, oh my gosh, I tried affirmations. I drove myself crazy with affirmations. Crazy. Because I was saying these things, I'm like, but I don't really believe this. I don't really feel it. And so it wasn't helpful. So eventually, years down the road, what I found is things that dig deep into the subconscious are what really help to rewire your mind. And so what I found to be super helpful, and it's part of my program, what I do with my clients, is things like guided meditations or hypnosis. They're essentially the same thing. But what they do is they allow you to go into a deeply relaxed state where your subconscious is alert and ready to heal, and your conscious mind kind of just goes to sleep. Not totally to sleep, but it just relaxes so you can do the deep subconscious work. And there's a couple different modalities to do this. Like I mentioned, guided meditations, hypnosis. Another one I think is NLP. They're all essentially part of the same grain here, but they're getting into the subconscious to rewire some of these deeper thoughts. And they very often involve going back to the original event. Like you do, like you go back to, let's say if you, for example, feel like you weren't good enough, you go back to these events in your past where they started, and very often you may not even remember consciously, but the subconscious does. The subconscious remembers every single thing, and it's keeping it stored in there for moments like this. So you go back to those events and you just do this magical seeming shift. And different, like I said, different modalities do it differently, but you then see what happened differently, and that creates a different thought, a different perceptual experience. And then a lot of times there's some follow-up that you need to do. Like these patterns can change instantly, these thoughts can change instantly, but then there's a certain amount of what I call like cementing in the changes that have to happen. So that's when things like affirmations can be helpful, only when you've first gone to the source of the wound, so to speak, the source of that negative thought. And then you can cement in the positive shifts. So that's really how you do it. That's how I did it. But yeah, if anybody else has another technique that's worked for them, please feel free to comment here. Okay, so Suzanne is saying here, I've realized that it is different and I welcome it being slow. What I've experienced is that I pick out what I don't like about them and cut them off or tell them all I want is friendship. Actually, I tell them all I'm looking for is friendship at this point. Yeah, so this is also great. Suzanne, thank you for being so open and vulnerable here. So this is also something that a lot of people don't talk about, but this is part of that transition out of a toxic relationship. So when we've been in a toxic relationship, I'm actually going to talk more about this in weeks to come, but when we've been in a toxic relationship, we tend to put someone up on a pedestal. And like I said in the beginning of this talk, when someone is not completely available, we then project a lot of stuff onto them. And they can seem like this amazing partner, and it's because they've left gaps for us to project our own qualities on, and we just think they're amazing because they don't show us exactly who they are. They're not totally vulnerable with us. So we don't see all sides of a person. And when someone doesn't show us all sides of themselves, we put them on a pedestal, essentially. We create this fantasy image of them. So when you're transitioning into dating healthy guys who do show up as they are, who are vulnerable, who are authentic, who are just letting you see all of them, then we see the negative stuff. And then we're like, ugh, I don't know if I like this. But what I want to tell you is that is a completely normal part of dating and being in a relationship. There is not going to be a perfect person out there. So our job in dating is to figure out if the negative qualities that someone has are okay with us, if we can accept them. And what I can tell you is the more that we accept ourselves, the more that we love ourselves, the more we can accept other people. So Suzanne, if you're finding that no one is able to meet your standards, or no one, or you're getting very, very triggered by these negative things, the things that you don't like about them, what may need to happen is you may need to focus more on loving and accepting yourself. And I hope this makes sense. But yeah, like I said, in this transition coming out of a toxic relationship, when you're with healthy guys, you see all of them, then you're forced to sit with, all right, is this a deal breaker for me? Or can I live with this little quirk that this person has? I'm assuming you're not meaning like giant red flags here or things that are very unhealthy. I'm assuming that you're meaning, just things that you don't like. There's things that I don't love about my partner, and there's things that he doesn't love about me. But we care and love each other enough that we just overlook that stuff. It's not that important because the main things that we're looking for are there. So again, Suzanne, I hope that this is helpful. There might be some self-love work that has to happen where you are able to get to the point where you can accept the lack of perfection that all people having, including yourself, including, me too. I'm not perfect either. So, okay. So Maya is meaning, I mean somebody who can be emotionally unavailable but still a good guy. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing here. That's the thing with relationships and dating, is it doesn't mean, like, if someone is emotionally unavailable, it doesn't mean they're a bad person. And that's why it's so hard sometimes to walk away from these relationships, because these could be great people, but they just have so much going on, they have so much to heal from, that they just can't be present in a relationship. They just can't do it. And it's so hard. I read this all the time in the groups that I'm a part of. People are like, well, he's a great guy, but he's just going through a lot right now. He needs to heal, and he's telling me that he needs to heal, and he can't be who I am right now. Should I wait for him? No. So, but I understand how difficult it can be to walk away from someone like that, because you see who they really are. But again, like I was telling some of you guys earlier, waiting for someone to heal, it does terrible things to your self-esteem and your self-worth. It just makes you feel not good enough, and it's like, why aren't they choosing me? Why aren't I good enough for them to do the healing so they can get to this place? It's a crazy place to be in your head, and I don't recommend it. But yeah, it's very common. Okay. So Phoenix, her question is, how do you overcome just plain feelings of loneliness? Ooh, the loneliness. So Phoenix, this is a good question too. Here's the thing. You can't completely overcome the feelings of loneliness. Part of healing, part of detaching from someone is feeling lonely. This is what happens when you break up with someone, when you end a relationship. The loneliness comes up. And if you've ever had the experience where you feel alone, even in the midst of people, or people who, like even your friends and family, that's what's happening. Loneliness is what happens when you detach from someone. So you can't completely eliminate this. It's a normal part of the healing process. But, if you're feeling extraordinarily lonely, connection is what helps that. It may not completely resolve it, but you can form new connections with people. I've created this group so that you guys have a space to be open, to be vulnerable, and feel free to make connections here. Feel free to, comment on, feel free to post, feel free to comment on someone's post. And if you guys are welcome here to message each other if it feels okay to do so. I always tell people to, ask first if it's okay. But this is a safe place, and I want this to be a place where you can get some connection. But yeah, Phoenix, if you are feeling extremely lonely, I would say reach out. It's difficult now in COVID to do a lot of stuff in person. A lot of that stuff isn't available to us right now, but there's a lot of online connection that you can get. And if it's getting really, really bad, reach out for a professional, because those relationships, those therapeutic relationships, can also help to alleviate some of the loneliness. But I can tell you from personal experience, I had to sit with a ton of loneliness, a ton. And it just is what it is. You can make yourself very comfortable while you're doing it. Like I said, I even had to go through periods of loneliness where I had loved ones and friends around me, and I still just felt lonely. And it's because it's normal. It's part of that healing process of detaching from someone. So I hope this helps. Okay, so I think that I don't want to go too long here, so let me just get to these last questions, and then we will end this for today. But Maya says, I'm so bad at loving myself, but it's so important when you do. You're a totally different person. Yeah, the bad guys run. I got a dog when I was lonely. Yeah, that's a great idea too, Maya. Pets can really help with the loneliness. Yes, they can help alleviate some of that really sharp, burning loneliness. Yeah, loving yourself really does change everything. And what it does is, it's not like it's some law of attraction thing where the bad guys will just not approach you. No, they will. They will still approach you, but you just have boundaries and you say, no, thank you. No, thank you. instead of entertaining people who aren't right for you, you just let them move along. And yes, it does completely change your life. And that's why I say that this is a healing journey of self-love. That's what a healing journey is. It is nothing more than learning to deeply love and accept yourself. So thank you for bringing that up, Maya. Okay, so Suzanne is just saying here, no, nothing big. Yeah, that's what I thought. Just things that are annoying or aggravating. Yeah. I'm working on self-love and need to focus on this more. It's just really frustrating when I tell them where I'm at and they continue to want more from me, that I don't feel that for them. Does that make sense? Yes. So when that happens, I withdraw and feel lonely as well. So yeah, like I said, Suzanne, if you're really not feeling it, if you're not interested in going out with these guys again, end it. For you, for them. It's not fair for them to be kind of like strung along. And it's not fair for you because you're not feeling it and it's not something that you really want. And then yes, the loneliness will come up. And just know that that's okay. There will be someone that comes along who does strike your interest. And again, keep on doing that self-love work, because that's going to be huge. That helps you to be much more open to people and to be much more accepting. All right, guys. I don't have anything else to tell you, and it looks like I have answered all the questions. So thank you so much for participating. This was a great one. This was so fun, and I will see you guys next week. Oh, and before I forget, if you are interested in working with me, either reach out to me privately or just comment Living Free Finding Love. That's the name of my program, and I'll reach out to you. All right, guys, talk to you soon.